I think if you're a fan of space at all, or even if you're not, there's so much to learn and marvel at in the show. And then on top of that, if you've ever been a fan of a period show like Mad Men or something like that.
Hi, it's good evening there,
Hi.
but good morning
Hi,
here.
Lisa. How are you?
Morning.
Let me state as plainly as I can. The greatest threat the United States faces is posed by the Soviet Union. History has asked much of the Americans of our time. Much we have already given. Much more we must be prepared to give.
There might be fans who didn't see season 1. Would they understand and feel relate to the season 2?
Yeah, I would love for folks who haven't seen season 1 to see season 2. Our story it's serial in the sense that we're watching these guys go on a journey from, point A to point Z. But at the same time, because we have this big gap between season 1 and season 2, exactly 10 years, it's almost like seeing an old friend at the store who you haven't seen in ages. Yes, you may not know, you haven't met her baby, you haven't met her husband, so much has changed, she's moved to a new city, but she's still the same girl that you've always loved and known. And so I think for us, we would love for folks to start off at season 1 and watch our characters through the whole journey. But I think absolutely, if you don't have the time to commit to watching a full first season, dive in episode 1 of season 2. Absolutely.
Yeah, good. And how about Ren?
I feel like I cannot improve upon what Chris just said. It's absolutely
Nailed
true.
It.
Yeah,
Nailed it.
definitely.
If just one line said you're going to introduce the whole episode from season 1 to 2, what would you say?
I think if you're a fan of space at all, or even if you're not, there's so much to learn and marvel at in the show. And then on top of that, if you've ever been a fan of a period show like Mad Men or something like that, this show brings those two sort of rich worlds together, and it then ultimately becomes about a cast of fascinating characters.
How about Sylvia?
Yeah, I think as Jodie said, I think it's a very human story against a very magnificent backdrop. I think season 2 also brings in this idea of politicizing the moon, an area that for season 1 was just this unknown frontier and this extraordinary star that we had to conquer. In season 2 has become a territory, and a territory that two nations are warring over. I mean, for Molly, that's just a tragedy and a travesty of our responsibility as astronauts.
Does the character related to you at all in the real life, since you've been joining this project for 2 years?
I mean, it's what's been interesting, but especially since we have so many women on our show, is as we've all gotten to know each other, to me it becomes more and more apparent why Chris Marshall is so perfect to play Danielle Poole, and why Sarah Jones is so perfect to play Tracy Stevens, and the same's true for Jodie Balfour and Sonia Walter and Chantal Van Santen and Coral Pina and Cynthia Wu. We are all in some way so similar to our characters, and at the same time entirely different. But I see little pieces, I feel like, of each character and each character in all of us. There's something about the essence of each of us, in relationship to our characters, that I feel like is really special. And I don't even know how you act that.
Yeah. And I think, you have to, in my opinion, part of the work is taking pieces of yourself and putting it into the story and allowing it to affect you. So, I have never been to the moon, right? Naturally. And I'm not a scientist, okay, of course. But I know what it's like to love somebody who's struggling. I know what it's like to fight really hard for a job that people don't think that you can do. I know what it's like to be the only Black woman in a room full of white men. There's so many things about Danielle that are so far from me, and her mind is so much better than mine is. But then there are so many other things about her love for family, her loyalty, her commitment to her friendships, that are very close to home. I don't have to act that part. It's just natural.
It's very interesting to know that this is a rewrite story of the history. if you can write something of your character in season 2, what would it be?
Oh. It's hard to answer. Yeah, it's hard to answer without giving some story points away.
别忘了订阅我们的频道，打开小铃铛就不会错过任何精彩内容，随时上架。我们下回再见。